What's going on, Coach Luke here. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a sample warm-up. I say sample because warm-ups obviously are adjusted to the individual with what's going on with them, but this is a great sample warm-up for somebody that's either going to go and do a squat workout, so you're going to do strength training, you know you're going to be doing a squat, or if you just want to improve your squat pattern. Okay, so we're going to break this down into a couple components. Right, the main thing is when we squat, the main restrictions usually when you squat to not be able to get low is ankle dorsiflexion. It's being so tight in the ankles, tight in your hips, not enough core strength. So what happens is the hips overpower the core, and then we round, right? We come up and we round. And so those are pretty much our main things. Obviously, there's some factors in, I would say, upper back mobility as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a sequence that you can literally do, like today, if you wanted to, you're going to go into a workout, you wanted to improve your squat, and I want you to see how this works. Now, the thing is, we're going to start off down on the ground here with ankle dorsiflexion drill. And there's a lot of great drills that you can do. This is from actually Dr. Andrea Spina and FRC, Functional Range Conditioning, which you guys should definitely check out and seek out. It's an amazing course. But the thing is like first we're going to basically work this ankle dorsiflexion in isolation. A lot of people try to integrate it really fast, and then you can't really control those end ranges of motion. So this is called the gas pedal drill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands over my shin so I can feel that when I'm basically turning my ankle, that it's not my knee that's really doing a lot of movement, right? So I kind of want to lock it down. So imagine that I'm going to start all the way to the right. So this is as far as my ankle can go to the right. And I'm going to gas pedal it. So imagine I'm pressing down into the gas pedal. I'm creating a lot of tension. From here, I'm going to slide and keep pushing that tension into the ground. So I'm actually working hard right now. I'm pushing down. Once I get to all the way to the left and I can't go anywhere else with my ankle, I'm going to bring it up. So imagine I'm pushing my finger up. I'm creating tension. Now this is, I'm working hard here. I'm not just going through the motions. I'm actually really, really pulling up as hard as I can. Now I'm going to go all the way to my right, constantly creating tension in those end ranges as far as I can. Now I'm going to gas pedal down again and slide across. So I'm creating tension all the time, and you can see how my ankle is kind of wanting to rotate. So I'm going to work that. So you can give yourself some feedback with a finger or somebody else helping you out. Once again, here, feedback. Pull up as hard as I can. Come across. Give yourself feedback if you need it. Push back down again, gas pedal. And what you do is you do that for 3 or 4 reps going each way. So I could go clockwise, counterclockwise. What I'm doing is I'm creating like these end ranges. So as far as I can, I'm creating tension there. Tension creates control, right? So nervous system is now working in those end ranges. You can lay down tissue. You can actually create control. But I'm not integrating it in these tough movements that we can't control. So that's drill number 1 for our dorsiflexion. You do that on both sides, obviously. I'm going to slide this over. Now, imagine that this box is actually the wall behind me. Obviously, I don't have a wall right here. I'd have to slide back. So imagine that this is a wall in your house, at the gym, wherever it may be. So I'm sitting down. I'm putting my back against the wall, so it's giving me that support. Now, you can see as I'm down in this position, I'm going to try to, with that support, get my knees as far as I can forward without my heel leaving the ground. Okay? So heels are not off the ground. They're down on the ground. From here, and you can see what I'm going to do is give myself a little support because the box is sliding back. Your wall's not going to slide back. What I'm going to do is actively push my knees forward and down. So the heel's not leaving the ground, but I'm thinking about and driving those knees forward past my toes, and at the same time, I'm going to try to lift my foot off the ground. Now that's not going to happen, but I'm thinking and trying. Okay, so this would look like this. Obviously, you're just going to see me kind of create tension in my face here, but so I'm really pulling. I'm pushing forward with the knee and pulling up with my foot as hard as I can. My shins are on fire. They're burning, okay? So we'll do that 15, 20, 25 seconds. And break and shake it off. You could do that for a couple sets. Once again, what are we doing? We're in this position in our end range, And we're using our nervous system. We're activating all this to create control and stability in these end ranges, right? So even just those 2 drills, and if you were to go in a squat, like after you started and you went, I'm pretty sure you're gonna feel an improvement in your depth in your back now rounding if you improved your dorsiflexion a bit. So those are the first 2 drills. All right, so this next drill is hip mobilizations. You probably see me do this. What I'm gonna add in here is some active control here with the hamstring raise. So I got my once again, this could be a wall, this could be whatever. It's just something for support, for stability. In this case, instead of just pulling my leg up, I'm actually going to actively use my hamstring. And this is knee flexion too, so it's working on knee flexion. I mean, most of the time, knee flexion won't be a restriction in the squat, but working your hamstring through this range of motion actively at end ranges, so I'm pulling it up as hard as I can, and I'm squeezing at this end range, so I'm keeping my abs tight. I'm cramping up here a little bit, but that's okay. Pull, 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 now grab. Now from here, I'm going to keep core engaged, and I'm pulling forward, keeping a neutral spine. As I push forward, I'm opening up that hip, keeping neck neutral, so I'm not pushing forward. So what I like to do is here, hit the 5. As I hit 5, come back up, and drive again, pull, 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 and cramp, and hit another 5. Right, so that way we're actually working on a couple of different things that are beneficial in one drill. So this next drill, we're gonna, like I said, in isolation work on hip internal rotation. And what I'm gonna do here is, I'm gonna give you an example of just my right side. I'm gonna push this knee in as far as I can until it goes no more and it gets pretty uncomfortable. Now, usually when this happens, my butt's off the floor, okay? Now that my butt is off the floor, I'm gonna push my butt into the floor, and what this is doing, you're gonna feel like a weird sensation in your inside your hip, and this is like working on that control on internal rotation, right? And I can just push that butt into the ground, working that internal rotation, come back up, and I do it on the other side. And a lot of times what will happen, keep your core engaged here, what will happen is that one side will be a lot better, and you can see my right versus my left right there, oof, unpleasant. So now my butt's off the ground, and I'm pushing back. Butt into the ground. See, I've been working on it. It's better than it was. Pushing, 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 and come back out. Right, so we're doing this in isolation and just getting that hip internally rotated and creating that neural kind of engagement there. So once we integrate in a little bit, when you guys see some flows, you'll just be better off because we're not putting it through ranges of motion and having parts of our body compensate. So we're getting it ready in isolation first. So here's our frog stretch. And this is a couple of really, really cool components. We're gonna integrate a couple of different things. So I'm gonna go down on my elbows here and go as wide as I possibly can here on my knees. Now you could be on pads, it'll be a lot more comfortable. I'm choosing not to be because I can get pretty wide on this. So I'm gonna be neutral and I'm gonna slide my butt as low as I can. So I'm gonna push back. So this is kind of a squat position, really, if you think about it on the ground. I'm gonna get to a certain spot where I'm gonna get really, really tight. Now, what I'm gonna do here, imagine that I point my belly button back in between my legs, and then I'm gonna draw a rainbow from one knee to the other, right? Hopefully that analogy will help you out. So I'm going to one knee, and I'm drawing a rainbow to the other knee. So what I'm doing here is this, in this bottom position, I am creating some tension, light, and control of my hips. And at the beginning, you may not be able to do much of this, and that's okay. You're just working that, because like I said, having stability and motor control of these movements is very, very important, right? And then you could slide out here, come a little bit forward, exhale fully, slide back down, try to get a little more range, and once again, drawing a rainbow. Now, when we're in this position, this is a little bit more advanced, but what we can do is integrate internal rotation. So if you look at my foot now on my right side, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise it up and hold. So now I'm working that internal rotation here, staying neutral, and coming back down. Now I could do the same thing on the left side, a lot tougher, and coming back down, right? And you could just drill this back and forth, 3, 4, 5 reps, come out of it slowly, And once again, everything is controlled. There's no jerking in and out of movements. It's controlled, controlling that belly button when you draw the rainbow, bringing that leg up, controlling, creating tension, bring it back down. Now this is the Shim Box, and you guys have seen me do a Shim Box in multiple videos. But in this instance, right, we've done some more things in isolation. Now we're kind of starting to integrate things, okay? So what I'm gonna do from the Shim Box, we've done this before, is snap into extension, right? So I'm gonna stay nice and tall. So I'm not gonna be here with my butt back. I'm gonna stay nice and tall here, right? I'm gonna drive my knee into the ground, so I'm creating some tension, and I'm driving up, popping through, squeezing my butt as hard as I can, keeping core engaged, and I'm slowly coming down, and I'm staying nice and tall, right? So I'm controlling that range of motion, coming down, and then I'm gonna just switch, do the Shim Box switch here, do the same thing, pushing into the ground, popping through, stay nice and tall. I'm gonna control every part of this movement, so I don't wanna drop down. I really wanna control it. Now the thing is, and switching up again, okay, the thing is here that if I wasn't doing those movements in isolation, this might have been harder, right? So we're just progressing this. I'm talking a little bit, so this would go a little faster, obviously, as you're doing your own warm-up. All right, next one is hip cars. And once again, you know, now we're starting to integrate a little bit more. I'm standing, once again, from floor to standing. This makes it harder. I have to have more stability, more control to be standing and doing things on the ground most of the time, right? So once again, you've seen this, but what I'm gonna do is just the hip cars, circular angle rotation. So I'm gonna grab a hold of something. Now, if I was, I would say, really in control, I could do this standing, but I'm gonna get some control here. And when you start this off, you're probably gonna need some. I'm going to go into flexion. I'm going to open up my hip fully without rotating. So this is all like in the hip. I'm not gonna rotate my back. I'm gonna go into internal rotation and come through, right? But I'm just gonna do one rep for you guys, although you can do multiple reps here. The key is here to create tension. I'm not swinging it. I'm creating neural tension. This is strength, right? This is control. But I'm gonna engage the core and grab on a hold of something so that core, right? I'm only moving from the hip. I'm not moving from my low back and doing all types of compensation patterns here. So I'm squeezing. Now I'm going to use tension, bring this knee up. So I like to give myself cues here. Even if it's my own hand and you don't have a partner here, right? From here, I'm going to open up. I'm driving up and back. So this is hard work here. I can't go anymore. So this is it for me. From there, I'm gonna start internally rotating. Imagine that there's tension on my ankle. Okay, I can't get any more here. I'm still nice and tight. I start driving back over a cone. I'm squeezing this. Can't get any more range. Okay, I'm gonna drive back as far as I can, still engaged, and pop through. And the slower you go, the better, because now we're creating control. Now, if you think about this, right, what is this? It's a squat pattern, okay? So that's what the cars will do. Right and left, you saw me hip flexion. We went to abduction. We went to internal rotation. We swiveled through like went over an object. So we're getting those 4 ranges of motion, we're controlling them. So this is a quadruped, and then we're gonna go into knee extension and a hamstring stretch. The reason why I like this, and this is actually, I just saw this from Max Shank, we do it here quite a bit, is that I'm actually dorsiflexing and extending my toes, right? Which can really help open up the ankles. And we just, you know, we did a bunch of work on ankles, so now this will actually be more effective because we can create some more control. So I'm on all fours, and you can kind of see what I'm doing there with my ankles. Now, I'm gonna show you a little more advanced thing, but first we're gonna start with here, because just about anybody can do this. So I'm dorsiflexing here, and then I'm just going to lift my hips up, extend my knees if I can, and then I'm gonna drive back down, okay? So lift my knees up, so I'm getting some hamstring stretch. We're also opening up those toes. And I like to also, when we're at the bottom, push those toes into the ground, so I'm creating some tension. And the advanced part of this is if we were like to stand up here, okay, man, imagine if we're in a squat and you could literally be standing on your toes. Controlling those knees down, so as I'm going down, control, 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 right? And at the beginning, you literally may just fall down, but what we're doing is we're, once again, controlling those end ranges. But this is our main part that we want to work on. So push up, control down, control down. I like this drill because once again, we can work on those toes and the ankles. The next drill I'm gonna show you is a variation. It's gonna be a squat to stand where we're not working on toes much, but we are opening up the hips. All right, so apart from liking to be on a soapbox, I love the box for the squat to stand because I can create more tension. Now, the original squat to stand, we coach it just grabbing onto our toes, which is a great variation. This is, like I said, just a little bit more advanced. And if you have that range, I can even bend my knees here a little bit to get to it. I can grab and I can create more tension. So if you're very flexible, right, and if you have good range of motion, I can do this with locked out legs. You might have to be here with bent, and that's okay, and that might be already creating tension in your hamstrings. From here, I'm gonna pull myself down and rip my knees apart, right? So I got this long, tall spine. Now, what I also like to do at this bottom position is some end range control. What I mean by that is you can see my knees pushing out into my elbows pushing out into my knees. Now, if I want to move my knee away from my elbow, so I'm working that end range as much as I can, coming back, doing it on my left side. And coming back up, feeling that hamstring stretch, and pulling myself down. So I'm creating tension in my core and opening up. Same thing, we could do this 5, 6, 8 reps, 10 reps. And if this is just too difficult, you can just hook your feet and work on the same thing. From here, now, I would say not last, but second to last, but not least, is our Spider-Man. We've done this a lot of times now. I really like this integration. Once again, from here, you know, if I just bring my foot up, right? So this could be a nice little regression, but from here, I can then extend, okay? Now, there's two ways that I like to do this. As I'm here, I'm gonna push my heel out. So imagine that I'm punching something in the back with my heel. You can see how that extends my leg, really opens up that hip. In the front, I'm gonna push my knee into my shoulder, right? So that's gonna activate that adductor. And then I'm just gonna get really nice and tall, pack my chin, open up my chest. Core is engaged, okay? Now, from here, we can do a couple of different things. We can work end ranges again. So you can see my right knee, if I pull it off, so I was pushing it in, now I'm gonna pull it off my shoulder. I'm actively using my strength to go into this end range as much as I can. I bring it back in, and now from here, I'm gonna go and take this foot and drive it back, keep my hips neutral, and push that heel out again. And then I would come back, and bam, I'm back in that position. We can drop that knee too, open up here, open up the foot. But you can see how I'm working that hip here, okay? And the cool thing about it is that, like, if you wanna work on some ankle dorsiflexion, great. Come forward, drive that knee forward, pull that toe off the ground. You guys saw how we did in isolation. So we can work this. We can even put hands down, drive up, get the hamstring, back in, active ranges, right? So it's a really great situation for a flow, for really opening up the hips, like working end ranges in a squat position and working ankle dorsiflexion, hammy, whatever you need, right? So great flow. Remember, guys, if you're doing this back to back, this is 10 minutes, right? 10 minutes to really, really have a great workout with your squat. All right, so now we've gone from more isolation, right, to starting to integrate those movements into different patterns. Now we're gonna load it, right? The goblet squat is a great exercise to teach a squat anyways, because when you don't have, if you don't have great ankle mobility, right, what can we do? We can use the center of gravity counterweight as we go down to bring it out, right? And I can stay, look at how upright I can stay. Now, if I put this down, that's gonna make me fall. And once again, this is a great kind of like integration with that Max Shank did and was showing. But this is the thing. So now that we've worked on ankle dorsiflexion, hip mobility, right, and isolation and started to integrate it, now we're gonna load it. But we're gonna load it, so if you were gonna go and do a heavy squat workout today, right, we'd still start with a goblet squat to get that range of motion. Then we'd go to the front squat, back squat, whatever you may be doing. But from here, like I said, this load now allows us to control these ranges that we've kind of, I would say, worked on. Coming back up. So You can do 2-3 sets, 5 to 8 reps, really controlled, working that all the way up and down. Like, so you're not dropping down, you're pulling yourself down, you're coming out of it, right? So as you see, we're piecing things together. If you just came in and you started working on your squat and you're like, well, I'm gonna warm up the squat by doing the squat with a bar on my back. But there are parts and ranges of motion that you cannot control. What's really happening is that you're compensating. Whether that means that your pelvis is tucking under, whether it means that your elbows are flaying, your head's going forward, a million different things that can happen, right? So we want to always look at the things that stop you from being able to do the movements, whether it's core control, right? So another thing that we did not do in this integration is something to create core stability. So even though we just finish off with a squat, I'd rather throw it in at the end of this video, not be like completely perfectly thought out. But we showed a lot of mobility drills and motor control, but we also want to create a lot of core stability, right? Because remember, if your hips are stiffer than your core, hips win, we tuck under, right? So if core matches hips, so that's why we need to loosen up the hips and strengthen the core, right? Stiffen it to sometimes get a neutral spine when we go into the squat. So one of the great drills that there's a lot of variations to is the dead bug. Because the dead bug essentially, right, we start in this squat position. Hands are gonna be up, and as we go down with one side, we're going to breathe out. Keep that rib cage down. I'm gonna inhale through the nose and come back up, right? And we do the other side. We could also regress and push into the wall and just tap. Right? So if I'm pushing into the wall, I'm keeping the rib cage down, I'm staying nice and integrated. Okay, there's ways to do also reverse crunches where we can get I would say core, rib cage and hips in alignment. So I'm coming up, I'm controlling down, and we could just tap, or we could actually extend, coming back in, control down. Right, so all of these drills, 5 to 10 reps per side, very challenging. All of these drills create core stability. So now we're opening up ankles and creating control. We're opening up the hips, creating controlling those end ranges, creating core stability, and then we're starting to integrate load and then going into our workout. And once again, you know, this today, however long this video was, is not how long it would take. I'm talking, I'm explaining, stuff like that. After your foam rolling, and like I said, we didn't talk about soft tissue and resets and things like that, because I wanted to give you something like that you can just take and use. So you could use that today. So you're doing your soft tissue, you're rolling out quads, you're doing your breathing drills, you're getting your glutes, hamstrings, doing some, like I said, some stretches with breathe outs, and then this is the warm up that you do. And you can take anywhere from 8, 10, 12 minutes to just really, really, really not only improve the quality of your movement and get rid of nagging injuries over time and fix some stuff, but also improve, get more out of your workout. So try it, let me know how it goes, and I'll see you later.